And welcome to another episode of the True Patriot Outfitters podcast. Folks, thank you so much for joining us here today. We have got a very special guest joining us on the phone that we're going to bring you in here. Before we get going too far, remember, if you're looking for ways that you can support the mission, man, if you like what we're doing out there, if you don't like what we're doing, whichever, smash that subscribe button, man. We need your support there. It helps us in a lot of other areas, helps us get the mission out there from the True Patriot Outfitters. And then, of course, across all boards. So make sure share this with folks, share it with your friends, your family. And don't forget, you can catch us on every major platform except iTunes because Apple charges money and we're not paying Apple a dime. So, at any rate, you can hit us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music. We're all over the place. And, of course, YouTube being our number one location that you can hit us out there. Guys, as you know, I fish a lot of series here, and our objective from day one with the kayak side, when we left the boat world and came into the kayak side, was to, number one, see if we could hang and pack the gear with some of the best anglers out there. And number two, we wanted to fish in the series that had some of the best anglers out there and that was run well. Well, I'll tell you, we have found that with the All American Kayak Series. We enjoy fishing some of the other series, but the All American is very special just in the fact that it does so much for anglers out there in regards to where we go. It makes it easier for so many anglers that are forgot about, the flyover states, man. A lot of us, you know, most of the major series are held down south, they're out east, they're this or that. The All American Series breaks that norm, man, and that's one of the things we loved. And on top of that, the community is phenomenal. None of this happens without direction and management. And that is our guest today, joining us here on the phone. Please welcome Mr. Joshua Boothe. Josh, thank you so much, man, for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on, and thanks for the support. I appreciate that.
You bet, Brett. You bet. Now, real quick, do you prefer Joshua or Josh?
Whatever comes out of the time, I don't care. Doesn't matter.
I always
call both.
I always tell people, you call me out of those is better than some of the things I've been called out in the past.
No doubt. That's for sure.
Well, listen, man, I meant every word I said there. You know, I'm kind of a newbie coming in. My experience was, you know, for 10, 11 years in the boat world competing around. I fell in love with the Ozark area. The Ozark Lakes kicked my butt almost every time, but I absolutely love the people down there. The communities, the support they give anglers, and the waters, of course, are just, I think, like nothing else you find. And so it seemed kind of natural to me to see that, you know, this is kind of the home base, so to speak, of, you know, headquarter operations is out of there. But dude, the All American, how did you guys get to the idea of we're going to go national with this and we're going to take care of, you know, those guys out there like us that, you know, out on the West Coast ish, you know, you guys set it up. I mean, we're going from Texas to Michigan to, you know, Missouri to Iowa, all like we call the flyover states. What led to the creation of that?
Well, it's kind of like what you mentioned earlier. The other big trails, they just kind of stopped coming around. They stay out in the Southeast. They go down south. And I myself traveled and fished a lot of the, you know, the KBF tournaments back in the day. And I started in with Bassmaster when they first came out too. And, you know, it just got to where the travel was getting really extreme. I don't like to drive more than, you know, 6 or 8 hours to get to an event. You know, a 12, 13, 14-hour drive, that just turns me off. I don't want to go just because of the long drive. So that's just me personally. But we figured there's a lot of great water here in the Midwest, you know, like you mentioned in Missouri, Arkansas, Nebraska. Well, I don't know if we'll give Nebraska that much credit. But, you know, there's a lot of great water that are just not being fished on by these major trails. And so we have, you know, we started out with the Classic and, you know, as being local club tournament directors ourselves, we knew a lot of the other tournament directors. So we kind of already had our foot in the door to get, you know, at least a decent amount of people involved that wanted to do it. So
right.
we came up with a plan to try to split it up to where nobody had to drive more than 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
And then that give everybody a chance to hit the minimum for Angler of the Year race and still not have to go too far. But if they want to travel farther than that, the option was there. But we really tried to just get it to where everybody was within 4 or 5 hours. And we wanted to put everybody on some good lakes too, because we wanted to show off some of these waters that, some people may have never heard of before. So that was our original intention. We just wanted to get something going to where guys here in the Midwest didn't have to drive too far. And, the Great Lakes that we have to fish in this area don't get overlooked.
That's phenomenal. And when I've had Jordan on a couple times and Josh Deal and several others, we've had Jody Queen on here. And one of the things that everybody agrees with around the board is we have a unique opportunity as kayak anglers to expose bodies of water that, like you said, some people may not know about. We can show you just how good these waters are because of the access and the abilities of a kayak, the advantages we have over other vessels. And like you said, man, I mean, there is phenomenal waters that hold quality fish, running around out there. And it's something I've loved. That diversity in schedule was one of the major things. It's kind of a double-edged sword for me. I talk all the time about how I'm behind the 8 ball when I go into these, backyards of a lot of you guys out there, and I fish waters for the first time against guys that have lived around them. But I got to be honest with you, I love it. I love breaking down a new lake, man. I love going to new places and seeing new things like that. And that's one of the deals that you guys absolutely do. The heart of this, where you were talking about there, running the local stuff, is Moyak, right? Missouri Kayak.
Yeah, Moyak is the series that I run here in Missouri.
Yeah,
and it's a pretty good one. We got a good group of guys. We're lucky too. Like just here in Missouri alone, we've got so many nice bass lakes to fish from. So we can.
Yeah, you do.
We don't even have to go to the same water twice and have a full season here in Missouri.
That is phenomenal. I've been trying to convince my wife, man, for a lot of years that we need to pick up a condo, and then she reminds me I just need to, start earning a living, and then we can do that. Because I've stayed, in Fish, Lake of the Ozarks, Table Rock, Truman, those places down there. But I've been desperately wanting to get to Stockton. I know that's supposed to be a phenomenal lake to fish down there.
Stockton's a lot of fun because it's all public land. You can hunt on the shorelines. You can walk around. It's like a public lake. You're not going to see any docks hardly at all, except a couple marinas. But yeah, it's pretty secluded and really quiet and peaceful lake to fish.
Well, one of the things about the Missouri area that I love the most is coming from the two areas that when I first got introduced to the Ozarks, I was coming out of Minnesota. I lived up there for about 10 years. And now living in Colorado, it's a somewhat of a similar vein. And that is anglers that travel or compete or whatever, maybe don't always get the warmest welcome on those lakes. Okay. Especially fishing certain docks or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, proverbial, looks like we lost him here, folks. Hang on a sec. We'll try to get him back. Hang tight with us here, folks. We just got to get his microphone reconnected again. Josh, if you can hear us, it says it lost your microphone. Hang with us real quick, folks. We're going to take a little break here, and we will be right back. All right, there you are. Can we got you back now, Josh?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm here. I hear you.
Don't worry. Technology, man. That's why one of the reasons why it's happy and good thing that I record these things. We're not exactly live most of the time, but no worries, man. Okay, so let's go for where I was going with that is that coming from some of these areas, anglers can be looked at. It's kind of hit and miss sometimes, especially like dock fishing in some of these residential lakes or whatever. I would say most of the time folks are totally good with it, but you get your Karens here and there that really, they think they, own the water or whatever the case may be. But in other areas, just the community, as far as how they embrace you. The one thing I loved about Missouri in that area is that angling is a part of life down there, man. And
Yeah.
you are welcomed everywhere you go. I mean, anglers are sought, and they're taken care of. I mean, you guys, like I said, very, very jealous of that area down there.
Yeah, that's you got a good point there. A lot of us, I mean, we grew up on the water. There's not only all these great bass fishing lakes around here, but there's even more of these Ozark streams. They're just full of smallmouth and largemouth and spotted bass. And when I was a kid, I'd ride my bike out to the creek and go wading and catch bass, during the afternoons, and then go back home at night. I mean, it was just a lot of people around here just kind of grew up on the water. So I guess we
That's
are
awesome.
pretty lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and I'll tell you, it's always starred on my calendar every year when we get a chance to get down there. I love, and then of course there's Everhart's, dude. That's a destination. Folks, you get into anywhere around Truman Lake down there or anywhere in Missouri, you need to go to Everhart's Outdoors. Go stop by, check this place out. Awesome folks, great gear. Yeah, it's an experience for sure.
Yeah, it's an incredible store. They've got everything you could possibly want and the best of everything. So
Yep.
you can go in there and drop a lot of money real quick and still be happy.
So, truth be told, I was just at a meeting this morning here. I was talking to the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, Chapter 3-6 out of the Front Range here. And one of the things I told them, is that one of the services, my nonprofit, what we do is kayak fishing. We take vets, first responders out kayak fishing at no cost. And one of the guys, there was a little bit of some questions here and there. And my response was, my objective, man, is to get you guys as hooked as bad so you can spend as much money on this stuff as we do. I mean, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Easy to do. Easy to do.
Very easy.
Dude, so from the past also, I mean, I've been doing my snooping on you and looking around. Always, before we, really tie our names to something, we do a lot of research. And not for nothing, tournament directing is just the latest chapter. Running an entire national series is just the latest chapter. You had yourself one hell of an angling career out of the kayak, dude. Talk to us about that. When did you get into kayak fishing?
I first heard about it back in 2015.
That's awesome.
And I was a little nervous at first. I had a little 10-foot sit-in Old Town kayak. I didn't have hardly any gear because I was just a river rat.
Right.
I was just floating the rivers with it. And so I worked up the nerve to fish my first tournament in 2016 on Table Rock. And,
wow.
And I was still in that little 10-foot sit-in kayak. I had one rod and a couple tackle boxes. And I just went out there and fished. And I caught a 21.5-inch bass and won the big bass pot. And
wow.
I just got addicted to the sport. I mean, from then on, that was just my life. I was, I'm disabled and basically retired. I kind of work from home and do little side jobs and stuff, but I had plenty of time. So I just threw myself in 100% because, I didn't serve in combat, but I was in the Marine Corps, and there is a sense of peace that you get when you're out on the water. Whether you're catching fish or not. And that was something that appealed to me right off the bat too. Being alone, being in that mode of you against nature, against a fish. And it took all my stress away from life, and it just put me in a new place, and I just loved it. And so I just went in hardcore. I fished every single tournament I could get my hands on. I was on the water 4 or 5 times a week. I was just, luckily my wife supported me 100%. And I just dove head on into the sport and started fishing as much as I could.
Dude, so, and folks watching or listening right now, I want you to understand something. I mean, anybody who's watching us knows the True Patriot Outfitters. My mission: serve those that serve or have served. And honestly, this is the first time. I always suspected it because of just the way he handles himself. But Josh, I never was 100% confirmed that you were a veteran, but I had that suspicion. And to find out you're a Marine, holy. So, the Romans Warrior Foundation is at the heart of our work. I mean, they are the reason the True Patriot Outfitters exists and where we're at. And we work with them. Brian Romans is absolutely, he is a Marine as well. And so it's, the Marine Corps has always holds a special, obviously place in my heart towards all of our work, because I do get a chance to meet many of you guys around the nation out there. So first and foremost, thank you, Josh, for your service, and doing what you did to allow goofballs like me to do what I do right now.
Thanks. I appreciate you supporting the veterans out there, because they deserve it.
Yes, sir. I quote that a lot, that when they ask, how much does that cost? My response is, you already paid for this a long time ago. And so don't you ever worry about that. That's, I'll take care of dealing with folks on the other side to help us, take care of that side. So, well, awesome stuff, man. So this is, I see, I knew I liked you, dude, already. I mean, I already had many reasons, and now absolutely. So we're here to serve and do what we can do. So yeah, now I saw some pictures out there about you on the fishing side of things, man, that you were on a couple, let me see, a couple teams that I saw you go and represent at the national level. Was that Hobie's team, or was that
No, that was Kayak Jack Outfitters was the first one at the national championship, and we won it that year.
That's right. That's right.
$10,000 on the big stage. That was pretty cool. We went up against some pretty stacked teams, and we were just basically some guys from the Midwest, and we went out there and showed them what was what. It was pretty cool. And the next year we did it again, and I'm actually the one that dropped the ball on year 2. We ended up coming in second, but if I would have had a little better day, we would have probably won it again back to back. So that was pretty fun.
That's awesome. And Kayak Jacks, for those of you who don't know, Marty Hughes, dude, is an absolute staple and pillar of the kayak community. We love Marty to death, all he does for our sport. And so, yeah, that's super cool, man. And I love the fact, like you said, show them what's what. I tell people all the time, trust me, man, I fish against some of the most dangerous hooks, in the country out there. You just haven't heard their name yet, but trust me, you're gonna. Sooner or later, you're going to hear their names, because the All American, man, this is a stacked field of anglers out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good anglers that probably aren't really known in the East Coast or, in the Southeast, because of just where we're at. But
right.
they're going to start to remember their names. I mean, Lance Burris, what was it, last year? I think he got on the big stage at the Bassmaster Classic.
Yep.
So, I mean.
And then, of course, we can't leave out, I just interviewed him. We'll be airing his interview here in the next couple of weeks, Chad Davison. What can you say about this dude? This guy goes out and smacks, Angler of the Year on a national and a local. And for those of you unaware, the Kayak Series is the heart of what built, the All American. And like we've just been discussing, y'all grow up on fishing around there. And so to win an AOY in the Kayak Series, dude, that's something to put in your trophy closet for sure.
It is too. It's probably one of the best, probably the biggest things that I ever won myself was when I won AOI and Moyak, and I still think that's more important than any other award I've won.
Dude, James Watson said this when I was back in the boat world. James had, at the time when he was talking about this, he had never won at the BFL level. He had won on the biggest stage. He had, won on the FLW side, on some of the biggest stages out there. But all that time he had never won BFL. And he even said, he goes, those are harder. Shoot, you're going against, a field of a bunch of locals that know this water inside and out, man.
Yeah.
And he flat out said, and so when he finally did pick off that win, I think it was at Table Rock maybe that he won, or maybe it was Lake of the Ozarks. I can't remember which BFL he won. But he said, he goes, you could see that was a grin from ear to ear on a guy that's, done quite a bit in our sport. He was super proud of that, to win at that local level.
We've got pretty big numbers in Moyak too. Not only is there quality of anglers, but we're averaging almost 100 guys a tournament every tournament. So that's a big field plus a lot of good anglers. So that's
wow.
Those numbers are right up there with some of the national trails.
So I'm a former computer nerd. I spent 23 years in the IT industry. So Excel spreadsheets are my buddy, and I decided to actually do. Now, mind you, the information I gathered couldn't be as scientific as I wanted it, just because trying to find results online is kind of a trick. But if you guys are averaging 100, then that's more than any other national series except Hobie.
I'm pretty sure 94 was the exact number that we averaged last year. And our biggest turnout was 157.
I think Bass's number last year on attendance was somewhere in the, I want to say, 80s range, somewhere in that ballpark. And again, my numbers weren't 100% scientific because the data sources were a little tricky trying to get it off of their websites and such. But
Wow, that's
KBF,
interesting.
oh yeah, KBF was like their events was averaging like mid 60s, high 60s. All American, we were almost 40. We were down in that area. And it's like Jordan talks about. It's beginning of the year, everybody were super high, and
Hmm.
end of the year, it always tails off quite a bit.
Yeah, that happens every year.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, man, Moyak putting those numbers up like that is, I have tried several years. I keep trying to put that on my schedule where, it's a 12, 13-hour run for me. But like I said, I love it there so much. I feel like I know some of these areas pretty well about good places to stay and whatnot. And so, yeah, we keep trying to say every year, I keep thinking, we're going to get some Moyak events in there. But this year it's All American and Bass. Those are the two major ones. And then of course I got to support our local stuff here, to keep
Yep.
that going as much as I can. And so we're going to stick with that, but who knows, we might sneak a Moyak one in there. And if there's any walkover, we'll definitely get in there and let you guys beat on us. I don't mind being a donor for those local guys there. So this coming 2023 schedule, I gotta say, from the moment you released the schedule, Josh, the amount of response looking on social media that you have been receiving from this has just been phenomenal. You guys have not only picked phenomenal bodies of water to go to, but the timing on when we're going there is so prime, so that the fishing is, we're going to have a chance to really get on some fish here and have some good slug outs here. We're starting the season off at Lake of the Pines, Texas. Now, is this an event? Has the All American been to Lake of the Pines before?
Nope, this will be the first time ever. I've never even been there myself.
Nice.
Just kind of. I was actually the story behind this was I was working a boat show for Everhart's actually, and one of the guides had a booth next to us, and we were just overheard in conversations that he was having about how he had taken some trips down to this lake in Texas called Lake of the Pines, and just how big the bass were and how little it's known. And then we kind of like, excuse me, can I ask you a few questions about that lake? So we picked his brain, and then I did some online research, and I just decided, okay, we love going to Lake Fork. We like going down there to Texas in the spring, but let's go somewhere new, somewhere, everybody's wanting to go to Possum Kingdom and OH Ivy. And, so this lake could produce just like those lakes. And so pretty excited about that.
I've heard it described as this could be one of the most premier lakes in Texas that nobody's heard of unless you're from Texas. People in Texas know about it,
Right.
but the rest of the country hasn't heard about it yet. And so, yeah, before it starts getting, used up out there, this could be awesome. From the map study that I'm seeing on this place, man, this thing just sets up so beautiful for many different types of ways that you want to fish it. And yeah, it looks like it's got just about everything to offer there for the kayak game that we should be able to really exploit this. And hopefully being the first one in March here, a lot of us getting cabin fever. Hopefully we put up a field of 80, 90, 100 guys up there. That could be awesome.
Yeah, we all are partnering with the local Texas club down there too. So the Texas guys will be with us.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
I didn't even know about that.
Uh-huh.
That's awesome. What is the name of that club? Do you remember?
I can't remember the acronym right off the top of my head.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. We'll look into it. I'll throw it in some descriptions there.
I don't have my info in front of me.
Yeah, no worries. And so after that, after we get done with Lake of the Pines, about 2 weeks later, we're going to be in Lake Conway, Arkansas.
Yeah.
That one looks awesome as well.
Yeah, I've been on Conway before, and it's like you're in a cypress swamp. I mean, there's trees everywhere. There's top water options. It's a really unique place where you would think you're down in Louisiana, not in Arkansas.
So I'm going to share something with you because I do this and I'm kind of a goofball. I just turned 50, so I always watch these other things. I came across an article because I do in-depth study into these lakes. Came across an article that had a video tied to it. It was a local news broadcast where a wildlife specialist found himself a gator in that water.
Yeah, there's a resident gator down there, but he ain't gonna mess with you.
I'm hoping it's just one.
They say it's just one, but how can there be just one? I don't believe that. I think there's got to be more than one. He's got to at least have a buddy or something.
Now, see, you can poke fun at me at this, Josh, but the next thing I Googled was the mating season of gators. I was like, when do I have to worry that they're going to be really angry and territorial? Because that's when they get dangerous. It's like the rut, for deer or whatever. It's like, no, you don't be around a buck when the rut season is on there, unless you have him staring at the working end of a 30-06 or whatever.
Yeah, no doubt.
So yeah, that should be interesting, man. Yeah, and I'm hoping I don't get a chance to meet Albert the alligator down there.
We're also coordinating that with the Arkansas club too for the Ben Spangler Memorial Tournament too. We're gonna there'll be a 10% of the entry fees are going to be donated to the family. So
that is so awesome.
Ben was a friend of mine that I fished with and stayed with on a few tournaments, and he still missed today in the kayak community. So we're going to pay a little tribute to Ben while we're down there as well.
That's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. Keep me in the loop on that. And I'll do everything we can from our side here, man, to promote the heck out of that too, so that folks know when we're going there, if there's any support they can offer. In addition, I know a lot of our viewers are all about that piece there, supporting where we can. So
thank you.
You bet. And then we are on to the classic, brother. We got Truman Lake, the
big dog,
the big dance.
Yep.
So here's some truth for you. Last year was my first year ever in a kayak. I have fished out of one brand of kayak my entire life because it's the only one that we got a hold of. We got in it. I fell in love with them. I'm a new canoe guy through and through. The first time I had ever fished competitively in a tournament was last year at the Truman Open. Oh, wow. That was the first, and day one, if you remember, the skies opened up. Oh my God, did it rain?
It was brutal.
I was way down the Osage. I was, because, we were allowed to go down to mile marker 65.
Yeah.
I was probably somewhere around mile marker, I can't fully remember, maybe halfway down there, so 30, or I'm sorry, maybe 80 or something like that, because it goes backwards, running back down. And I was in this little creek arm back in here, and there were some docks in there. And I literally, to get my bearings about me, to understand what I was dealing with here, because, here I am just getting completely drenched in this thing. I pulled underneath one of those little docks with the overhang there and kind of hung out when the lightning was banging around. That's about the only time I start to skedaddle and get out, is when the lightning gets serious. But yeah, man, that was the first ever run. But I got to tell you, man, didn't have the greatest day down there on day one at all. Kind of drove the struggle bus. I was more trying to learn my way around a kayak more than fishing. But I got to tell you, man, fell in love with it right from the get-go. I knew at that point, I may never bring my boat out of the garage again. I think I'm good. I think I'm good right here. And a lot of that had to do with the way you guys ran that thing, man. The communication to the anglers, the constant updates that take place from you guys, that communication. It's not many places are run that clean. Obviously, your background helps with a ton of that. Was that from the get-go with the All American, was to make sure that the angler was, the first consideration throughout?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we really don't have any big sponsors either. And that's how we get to go to these lakes at the right time, because I'm not tied down to restrictions from cities. I'm not tied to restrictions from sponsors. I get to do whatever I want, really, and whatever I think is best for the anglers. So that's how we're able to get this set up. And being a former angler myself, I know what it's like to be in the tournament. And, if you understand the rules completely and your communication is clear, then you shut the door for drama or problems. And if everybody's on the same page and everybody knows what's going on, then everything runs smoother and everybody's happier and has a better time. And you don't have to worry about any problems coming up, is kind of my theory.
And it's 100% true, man. We all know, And I remember when I was first deciding what to do, I hit you a couple times on Facebook just through Messenger asking about a couple of the rules, couple things, this and that. And dude, you were Johnny on the spot, getting back to me, getting me the info I needed. That's huge. I mean, that's massive. That's what brings new people in. It's what keeps people staying around. I mean, it's one of the other areas there that what makes the series so freaking awesome. So the classic, that was, like you said, that was the start of really what kind of sprung off the whole series here. Truman Lake, holding that bad boy. Why is it because of its proximity to Everhart's? Is that why Truman is always kind of the chosen place for the classic?
Yeah, basically, it's Everhart's. They're the primary sponsor. This is their tournament. I just kind of run it for them, but also Truman is very centrally located. From everybody that's up north and down south, it's about the same drive to get there. So it kind of a win-win situation.
Well, and it's a huge enough body of water that it can support it. It could support a 300-400 person field if it really wanted to.
Oh yeah, it's a big lake, that's for sure.
And there's so many ways you can catch fish on that body of water too. That's the other piece.
Yeah, it's got a lot of variety. I mean, you can fish bluffs, you can fish mud flats, you can fish rivers. There's pretty much everything if you want to go find it.
I got to be honest, man. When I had a bass boat, I fished one event on Truman and vowed I don't think I want to go back here ever again with my boat. Now with a kayak, I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to get to Truman, dude. It's totally good because I'm not worried about ripping a $4,000 lower end unit off anymore.
Yeah, I forgot to mention the trees too. There's a few trees out there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, I remember one area during practice for a BFL event that was going to be held there. I idled for 3 miles up a creek arm because there were deadheads everywhere, and I was like, nope, not in practice, dude. I'm not ripping the lower end of this Merc off. So I had to idle all the way up till I got a good clean running path, then I could get up on pad for the way back. It was a little bit cleaner. But yeah, in a kayak, dude, shoot, I love that. Stump fields all day long. So then we go north after that. We're going to Okoboji, kind of another kind of a, I don't want to say hidden gem because folks around the area, Iowa and that sort of, they know about Okoboji, but maybe around the country doesn't know about the size of smallies and greenfish that live in that water.
Yeah, and the amount of fish. When we first had our first event there, that was the anglers that fished it, they just fell in love with that place. That was probably the best lake on our schedule. Guys, I mean, I don't know how many limits were caught, but I think just about everybody in the tournament caught a limit of fish. And there's so many people in the 90s, and it's just, you can fish a lot of different methods there. It's just, it's probably going to remain on our schedule every year. It's that good of a place at that time of the year.
Man, when it's fishing that good, why not? Yeah, absolutely. So it's got a west and an east, I saw. And for this event, are both of those in play? The whole anything connected by the water?
Yeah, I believe so. Tyler Cole's the tournament director on that one up there.
Gotcha. I had a chance to meet Tyler and actually stayed in an Airbnb with him up there. He's a super cool dude as well as your partner, the other tournament director.
Yes, sir. He's a great guy.
Yeah. Talked to me all about his Jeep problems he was having. That poor guy, the things he went through with that Jeep. Good night.
Yeah. That Jeep is history now.
That's what I heard. He sent it packing.
Yep.
So we leave the Midwest, and here is the farthest east that the trail travels. I won't be able to join this one. It just didn't work out for the schedule piece, and it's like in a different continent for me to make it this far.
Yeah,
it's Lake St. Clair. Yeah, Lake St. Clair, Michigan. I mean, honestly, when I told a few of my buddies from the boat world about this, they lifted their eyebrows. They're like, you guys are going to get on St. Clair in a kayak? Because all they think about is the offshore, boulder hunting, looking for those smallie wolf packs running around out there in like 5-footers, all day long. But there's a lot more to St. Clair than that, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. And that's just another bucket list destination. I mean, that right around that time period, it's 1st of June. That's when they go nuts there. So, I mean,
yeah, anybody
that knows about St. Clair, they want to be on that lake at that time of the year. It's going to be really good. So, I mean, hopefully the wind's not too bad because, it could get nasty in a kayak if you're getting offshore a little bit. But that's just another one of them bucket list destinations that everyone really wants to see on the schedule.
Well, and this is another, advantage of kayak scheduling is that to compete for AOI, you don't have to hit every event
Right.
at our level of fishing, to do you get to you fish what you can fish. And then for us, it's the best four, correct?
Yeah, it's best four, and we try to split it up to where there's like 4 northern tournaments and 4 southern tournaments, so everybody kind of has about the same drive to meet the minimum.
Now for AOI, it's your best four plus the championship. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yep,
Okay. So it's a total of 5 total tournaments at the end of the year will determine your points.
that's right.
Okay.
The,
Yep.
the championship will be worth just regular points. It won't be anything extra, but it will count.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So not too far. Actually, this one might even be further north. The next stop is the Minocqua, Lake Minocqua, the Minocqua chain up there in Wisconsin, which is one of our Roadrunner starts that we get a chance to do. Is that right?
Yep, that's going to be a big road runner. There's going to be a whole lot of water in play there. We're trying to get everybody to spread out as much as possible and explore. That is another destination that I have not personally been to, but
Yep.
from my research and from what I've told, I think everyone's going to fall in love with it, and it could be one of the best events on the schedule this year.
A couple people out there that want to fish our series, but their other schedules get in the way, talk very highly about that. One of them that I've witnessed on social media, Christine Fisher, she absolutely loves that area up there. I know she and G, I get a chance to fish that quite a bit. And
They've caught some monsters up there too.
They have. So it's definitely known for sure. But yeah, like you said, bucket list item.
Yep. I hate that there's so many conflicts with the Hobie and especially Hobie, but I guess I want to throw out there the reason that usually happens a lot. I mean, I do work with, I've talked to Steve and Bassmaster and Hobie before we announce our schedules to make sure there's nothing really crazy, but I've got to deconflict with Moyak too. I can't run Moyak and the All American at the same time. So
Right.
I've got to have the schedule for Moyak, and then I got to have the schedule for the All American. And then, there's only so many weekends in a month. And so that's why sometimes it conflicts with Hobie. I've been asked, how come you can't just make it on a different day so that people can fish Hobie and, the All American? But that's because I got to factor in Moyak, which is just as big as all of them. So I got to just want to throw that out there. I hate that there is conflicts, because I wish, it seems like there's so many tournaments these days that people kind of almost have to choose a series. Back in the day, you could fish them all, but now there's so many that you really can't. But I get it.
And that's, 2 points to that. Number one, it's only the uneducated mind online that thinks that you guys that run these things don't care about, that other stuff. Okay. Cause it couldn't be further from the truth. Of course you guys care, but yes, there is a lot that goes into this that we are not privy to, that we don't understand 100%. And so that's where what I always tell people is, you hear me say about I trust this series and I appreciate the way it's run. It's because I do trust them, and I know they've got my best interest in mind as an angler. So you either have that or you don't. If you're never going to have that, then that's on you, in my opinion, type thing. That's on those guys out there. We trust that you're doing what you can do. The second piece, I was actually able to rearrange our schedule now. I've done it again. I'm going to stop putting out fancy pictures with my schedule because it keeps changing every time I turn around. We were able. I'm going to be able to compete AOI with All American and the Bass Series. The schedules don't conflict that much, really. There's a lot of work there between Bass and the All American, and I thought that was phenomenal.
Yeah, I was really appreciative of Steve for doing that. I mean, we talked a few times. I don't know exactly how much went into it, but when I saw the schedule come out, I was pretty happy about that, because we do have guys that want to fish Bassmaster as well. I mean, it's a great series with a great schedule as well.
And that's how excited are you, man? I mean, you know more the insides of this. Having Steve-O back on board and now at the helm of Bass. I mean, that's everybody I'm talking to. I mean, that just spells good things, I think, for our sport. Don't you? What do you think?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're definitely going to pop up there with Hobie as the top 2 in the country for sure. And they're going to get a lot of I like to see the direction that Bassmaster's going towards promoting these anglers on television and in their magazines and social media. So that's going to really help the sport grow a lot.
So The other day, I got a compliment on one of the photos that I have in one of our flyers that we put together. I got a picture of me and my unlimited, talking about the fishing trips we do. And one guy asked me, "Who's your photographer, man? That's a phenomenal picture." I'm like, "You can thank Bassmaster. They got a media boat that runs around, and that was the shot for me at Pickwick, man. And they give you the photos. They dump them, and you go grab them, and
Yeah, that's
yeah."
awesome. I wish I could do something like that with the All American. That would be so cool to be able to help promote anglers in a better way like that. We're just not quite there yet, but maybe someday.
I was going to say, it's time. You know what I mean? It's time, and as more and more folks hear about it, I know it's I trust that it'll happen when it's feasible to happen, and so yeah, not a big deal. So once we leave Wisconsin, dude, we're not heading too far south. We're heading down into Iowa here, Clinton, right on the border, Iowa, Illinois. It looks like Mississippi River pools 13 and 14.
Yeah, we love fishing the Big River. La Crosse is one of our favorites. Everybody's favorites. If you haven't been there, then you're missing out.
Yes, sir.
I plan on taking a trip up there just for the fun of it this year.
Nice.
Yeah, but we decided to get off that a little bit. We're always on pools 8, 9, and 10, and we thought about going a little bit farther north. There's some good fishing up there, but then we just, we've already got Minocqua that's up there pretty good. So we went down a little bit, and we decided to go to pools 13 and 14, which offer a new challenge, but it's kind of still similar to what it fishes up at La Crosse.
I was going to say, it's still the river.
Yeah, it's just a little bit more downstream.
Yep. And that's exciting. I'm actually going to be at La Crosse for bass. Bass is visiting that this year. So,
that's what I'm going up there for that. I don't know if I'm going to fun fish or if I'm going to enter the tournament. I haven't made up my mind yet, but I've already got my Airbnb booked and I'm ready to go up there in July.
Awesome. Good stuff. Yeah, we've got a big Healing Hearts and Minds event with Romans Warrior Foundation going on in Marion, Illinois, the week of the weekend right before, the 4th of July, since it hits in the middle of the week. So my wife and I are going to be at that. I'm going to drive to St. Louis, put her on an airplane back to Denver, and then I'm driving north to La Crosse there to get up to do that one. So yeah, it should be, I love La Crosse, that area. This last year when we were there for our big open, our big qualifier there, I have never, and I fished that a lot from a boat. This is the first time fishing it from a kayak. I was down in pool 9. I have never been to La Crosse and caught as many fish as I caught that trip, but not a one of them could get above like 17 and a quarter, man. I'm not kidding you, Joshua. I hit more fish than I can count on all 3 days. I didn't make the cut for day 3, but I stayed in it for a big bass, hope, since we were offering that for big bass options. And I just wailed on 16 and a half, 17-inch fish all freaking day. And where are the big ones? Oh, it was amazing. Great campground. Those guys, Jeremiah, they do an awesome job up there. So yeah.
That's one I've had a lot of success up there. In fact, most of the good tournaments I've had have been up there, like that open tournament, that KBF Open. I think I got 5th place, and then I won the KBF Pro Tour there, and then I top 10 in the KBF Championship up there. But
nice.
Yeah, it's like what you said. You can get in there and start catching them 17s and 18s, but if you can get one, you can get a 19 or 20 kicker, then you're going to be cashing a check probably. But even though it's still fun, those 18-inch fish are fat tanks, man. They're little footballs.
Well, and you put me on a river, and I'm very much at home. It's my best success last year was at that Lewis and Clark event. Absolutely loved that type of fish, and it was fishing tough. Then it came to us a little better, and so I always you get me on a river, and now that length is the deal, not to spill the beans here, but for some of you guys new to this stuff, smallies get really long before they get fat. Mm-hmm. And so I started going, just 100% targeting smallmouth fish the whole time. And that's what I was trying to do there in La Crosse. And that is tough in La Crosse if you just target smallies, because they can be really fickle around that area. Mm-hmm. But so here comes one that I got to tell you, man, not only amongst those of us in the All American, but my local scene here. I've got a ton of the local anglers here that fish the Bass Nation series that are talking about mined lands. This one is like people are stoked. We literally, I'm going to tell you this. Our Bass Nation director rescheduled one of our events to open it up so our guys could go to Mined Lands. And then the following weekend, we're going to fish our Bass, Nation local event that's over in Kansas over there as well, just kind of towards Colorado. But yeah, that's how much that they're looking forward, man, to jumping in this one. Mined Lands. Have we been there before?
No, no one's been there before. Really, this is it was kind of a gamble on my part, but this is in my backyard. This area is like 30 minutes from my house. I've fished it a lot. I know it really well, and I know it's full of big bass, and it's basically like pond fishing. If you like to fish in a pond, here's 1,000 ponds for you to go choose from. And some of them are pretty, I mean, they're deep. A lot of them are 40 to 60 foot deep, and some of them are shallow, but there's some pretty deep ones out there. So it's not like you're fishing in a little pond, and some of them are pretty good size too. You could probably sit in one all day if you're in a big one, but I like to hop around. But yeah, there's a ton of vegetation, underwater grass, slop. If you like throwing a frog or a chatterbait, and like I said, it's going to be fun. A lot of them have boat ramps, but it's also all public land. So if anybody's primitive style fishing or wants a primitive camp, you can camp right on the shore of the pits.
Wow.
You can park on the side of the road and go walk off in the woods and set you up a tent if you want to. The whole area is public. It's not restricted to any campgrounds or anything. So you can do pretty much whatever you want there, but there's no electricity. If you got batteries to charge, you might have an issue, and cell service is a little spotty, but it's going to be pretty awesome. I think everyone's really going to like it. And it's one of them new things that I think I'll get people talking.
Well, and I was looking at a lot of the Kansas circuits because, we were trying, before I realized that Bass was only 3 events for AOI, I thought they were 4 events. I only had lacrosse on my schedule for them. So I was looking to fill in our schedule with a bunch of Kansas events, and Mined Land kept coming up in conversation with a lot of the, locals. So again, it's one of those people in Kansas know about it, type thing, but not a lot of everybody else. So a couple things here. You live 30 minutes from this. What is your favorite whiskey?
My favorite whiskey.
Well, if you're living 30 minutes from it, I'm thinking we need to become really good buddies.
Yeah.
No,
part of me wishes I could fish it too, but I'm not going to be fishing in it. But it'll be fun.
So, doing my map study on this, I was telling one of the other guys that he's won and had a lot of success, Jeremy Brandis. JB and I were chatting, and I was like, dude, some of that map study, there's some places, some farms that are dead ends around there, like, way back in the sticks. I'm thinking our trophy might need to be a banjo or something for this, because some of those areas look really remote back in there.
Yep, it is remote, and some of them pits you can only get to by going through another pit. That's going to be one. We're gonna make an exception for the portaging rule on that one, just because of that. It's all public land, and there are pits. I mean, you'll come to the end of a pit, and then like 10 feet, there's a little bit of a levee, and then another pit starts. So you just got to like hop over a hump, and you're right into a whole new set of water again.
So I was just talking with the tournament director of the CKB here in Colorado this morning. He and I were chatting, and one of the things we both mentioned, because he's one of those guys that absolutely wants to make this event, and he tells me, we were confessing that I'm probably, by this time that this event happens, because that's happening in September, I'm hoping to have my NuCanoe F10 on hand. I'm trimming down. I have the Unlimited, which is our big, our flagship. We've got a few of those. Well, one of the things we wanted to do is we're going to get rid of a couple Unlimiteds so that we have 3 total, and one of those I want them to be a smaller one anyway. Yeah. So I'm probably going to end up, just getting this myself. And so by that time, I think I'm going to bring that 10.5 footer to that event for that very purpose, so that I can, in and out, no worries. It's not very heavy. And, you can buzz around those, because, yeah, it looks like, I think I stopped at about 40 ramps that I marked. I was like, what's the point, dude? I'm just going to pull up and slide it off to, either the truck or the trailer, and we're going.
Yeah. There's fish in all of them, really.
That is some awesome stuff. So that takes us October 5th through the 7th, the big dance for our series, the Felsenthal Refuge. This one for sure's got gators in it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking at that where it's at, and I'm like, dude, if there isn't a gator there, they're going to be there by the time it happens.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the gem of the schedule too. I honestly
Wow.
think that is going to be a trip of a lifetime to go down there for that one. I'm probably going to take my kayak down there just to play around for fun during while you guys are practicing.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
It just looks amazing, and I've had a good relationship with the parks director down there. They've actually have never had a kayak tournament at that location before, so this is they're really excited for this too. And I was talking to him on the phone, and she goes, "You do understand it's going to be a draw down here. The water is going to be a little bit lower, and some of these areas are going to be harder to access because the water's so shallow, and the boats are going to be restricted." And I'm like, "Well, that's good news right there."
Yeah, it is.
You just keep all the. Oh man, that's going to be paradise. Get your top water out and get ready to go.
Well, and the fact that we won't have any competing traffic, really, just other kayakers. That's it.
Yep, that's exactly right. They only
Dude, that's
allow
huge.
a tournament at a time. She did tell me that on Sunday there's a catfish tournament going on, but that's
cool.
not going to. Yeah, no kidding. Other than that, that's it. It's so we have the whole place to ourselves, and they also require all tournaments to do a shotgun launch out of this one particular park. And the director down there, I talked to him, and he's going to make an exception for us, and we're going to be the first tournament as well to ever do a Roadrunner style launch, so we can launch from any public access, which they're going to make an exception for us, which I was pretty happy about.
Wow. Yeah, we're gonna have to make sure we do as much from our end, And we were talking about that the other night, Josh, Jordan, and I. That anglers, we have a responsibility. If there's things about our sport that we love, like the All American Kayak Series, we have a responsibility. Those of us who want to take it to the highest level possible, to get word out about these awesome places like this, and like what you just said, man, is that when parks work with anglers and in our organizations, and they appreciate what we bring to the communities, to the fisheries, that we're leaving no trace when we're there, man. And conservation's a big deal to us. We want to take care of these places that we love to go to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dude, that's huge, and that becomes our responsibility as anglers to promote the hell out of them out there and really really talk them up to folks, for sure. I mean, you almost don't want to because you want to keep it a secret, but yeah.
Yeah, that helps a lot when anglers do help spread the word. That helps a lot because I mean, anybody that knows me, I'm not really much of a social media person. I don't really like being on here much, but you got to do what you got to do. So any help I can get is great.
That's awesome, man. Well, and I've told you this many times. We're going to keep doing it from our side as much as we can because I want to see. I'll be honest with you. I said this the other night because I told him I'm not a part of any of these. I'm just a player. I'm a pawn on the board out there. But I was the first to say that when I watched that summit with KBF, Hobie, and Bass together there, several times I was screaming at my screen, where's Josh? Y'all need to have him in this conversation, because they can turn their head if they want to right now, but it's coming. And there's no question in my mind. Everybody that fishes the All American that I have come in contact with absolutely has nothing but positive things to say. That is, I mean, I've not heard one, and I mean, Josh, you and I both know this industry, right? I mean, we got some hens, right? We got some trolls that cackle, or keyboard, warriors, whatever. Not one. I mean, I've never come across somebody that didn't appreciate or have a good time or enjoy the community, from it and the competition. It's like, there was some folks I think last year that weren't pleased with maybe a couple decisions, like maybe the points at lacrosse or whatever. But whatever, that it didn't take away from the fact that was a phenomenal weekend for everybody that went and fished the thing. It's like,
and things like that too. We try to make adjustments on every year, like
sure.
Like that deal, the extra points, that's not going to happen this year. The championship will just be worth regular points. So, we make little tweaks to try and keep making it better and better each year, which is why we made a few rule adjustments this year to try and, make it a little bit more competitive, but also a little bit more fair and not get too crazy. I was really happy to see, I watched AJ talk about the new Hobie rules adjustments and how he kind of followed suit. We kind of got the same path going. That was happy to see that.
Absolutely. And that's a great segue into this because right now I think we're one of the only that's doing this, but maybe it's getting closer. Maybe I didn't see the thing you're talking about with AJ, but the fact that on some of our lakes, no longer is 12-inch minimum going to be the standard. We're up in the game for this and increasing. Like a couple of our lakes we're going to, it looks like 14 inch is going to be the minimum.
Yeah,
To put up there.
it's gonna be adjusted. We wanted to make it, to where it was just like the state length limit, but that got too complicated.
Yeah.
Different species and spotted bass are different, and some smallmouth can have different requirements. So we're just going to make a limit across the board for all species. It's going to be 12 inches for most of the tournaments, but some of them will be higher.
Yep. Well, and there was a guy that was when I was talking about this when we were asking about the size limit. Actually, it was Josh Deal. Matter of fact, when he and I were at Pickwick, we were we were at the same Airbnb there, and we were around dinner. We were talking about 15-inch minimum across there, and one of the points he made about it, he said to be an advocate against that, though, he goes, keep in mind, you're talking about limits from a boat, right? You can cover a whole lot of water in a boat a lot faster, so unless you want half your field or 3/4 of your field really having a crappy day on the score chart, because at the end of the day, the high quality, if you subscribe to the Bill Dance methodology of thinking about quality fish in a lake, quality fish exist in about 10% of the entire body of water, that you're looking for on any given day. So it's, with kayaking, it's like the whole adage that, sometimes you can't really make it your number one to just hit a limit, because in a kayak, hitting a limit's a really good day, know, because unfortunately, if you don't know the waters and you're traveling around, you're not as privy to a lot of this information. So you got about I think most guys, even with my motor, I'm 6 miles one way, probably is the most I'm going to probably go, so 12 total mile, run or whatever. So we just can't cover as much water. We can't run, a lake pattern, in other words, of primary points,
Right.
type thing, like on Ozarks or Table Rock or whatever, when the primary point's running. You got to be a more accomplished angler and pick apart, find the patterns within the patterns on that stuff. So, well, listen, man, I for one, I'm no expert on any of this area, but I have fished a little bit and been around a couple areas, and I love the direction that this is going. Up in the ante, with the All American, and that brings me to the final piece here. And I just want your opinion on this. So, there's been talk. A lot of folks know about it. A lot of folks have talked about it, and everybody's kind of looking at bass. They're looking at Hobie. They're looking at KBF. Maybe looking at bass and Hobie a little more, and of course they're going to look at the All American about the possibility of an elite series. And by an elite series, what I mean is one that is $600 to $1,000 entry, rules a little bit more stringent on practice, on size limits, these type of things. Do you think our industry's ready for one of those now, or do you think it still needs time to kind of grow a little bit further?
I think it's coming. I don't think we're quite there yet. I mean, we've been talking about it. I mean, Tyler had a pretty good idea for that last year. I would say there's probably about 10 to 20 people that could do it right now, with the sponsorships and their abilities that they have. But I would think you'd probably need a good 50 to really make it successful. Maybe we're a couple years away from that, and it's still, you've got the question of who's going to do it. Somebody's going to have to step up and create it and make it happen. And I just don't know who that is.
Right. Because that becomes, James and I were talking about that. James Strawbridge, who is the tournament director of the Colorado Kayak Bassmasters, he and I were talking about it. And the thing is, that's a full-time job. We're not talking about something that you can just do on the weekends.
Right.
And you're going to probably need a couple people full-time job in that.
Exactly.
There's so much that goes into, trying to put that together. And then the question exists, if a new player stepped in and said, hey, we want to do this, what do you, for two parts to this question. Let's say a new entity stepped in and said, hey, we are the John Doe Elite Series. We'd like to work with you to be, kind of help hand pick anglers, feed them up and then create a feeder trail up to this. And we want to work with your schedule so that we don't conflict type thing. First part of the question, would the All American be open to talking to somebody about that?
Oh, as far as you mean,
just talking about it.
As far as not conflicting schedules?
Yeah.
Of course. I try to talk to everybody, the other tournament directors, about that as much as possible. I think if someone were to just pop on the scene, they're going to have something big behind them, like a major company or something, to earn the angler's trust, because you got to have that too. There's a lot of people I see just try to pop up tournaments here and there all over the country, and they're just throwing stuff up on Tourney X and think people are going to show up, and it doesn't work that way.
It's the whole spaghetti against the wall trick. They're trying to see if it sticks.
And then it usually never sticks. It just falls. So
exactly.
So if someone wants to try and come on the scene to do that, they're going to have some background, some experience, and probably a very major sponsor behind them.
Right. And that's, and like you talk about, it's that angler buy-in. At the end of the day, that's the driving factor. I mean, we can talk about what we want to talk about, but the angler buy-in means participation. And with the angler participation comes everything else, right? I mean, it comes your sponsor draw. It comes, the payout piece happens there. And so, it really kind of boils down to that, is getting butts in boats, man. Yep. That seems to be the key on that.
Yep, that's right.
Well, listen, man, I can't thank you enough for you taking the time out of your Sunday here to sit with us and chat about this. If you haven't heard enough, dude, just from absolutely everybody that I have come in contact with, thank you so very much for what you do with the All American every year, for listening to the anglers, taking feedback into consideration, running a tight ship, and giving us a place to go out there and compete against, on amazing waters and against some of the best anglers in the entire nation right there.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I think this is going to be a really fun season this year. I think it's probably our best one yet.
For sure. We're the only ones I'm not going to make. I won't be able to make the St. Clair, Minocqua, or the Mississippi River Pools 13, 14. I can't make that one either. But we're hitting 1, 2, wait a minute. Yeah, 3 and then 4. Yep. We're hitting everything else inside there. We can hit those. I had to make a decision. My wife's birthday is the 8th. For me to truly fish the Mississippi River pools, I would have had to leave on her birthday. I'm not doing that, man. I like being married too much. She's like the smartest one, of the two of us. So I got to make sure I'm doing the right thing there.
Well, make her birthday present a nice trip to Iowa. Take her out to dinner on the Mississippi River with a nice view.
In a kayak.
Yeah, there you go.
Like I said, I want to remain married, dude.
Just get a nice hotel room and then tell her just to sleep in during tournament day and take her time, and you'll be back in the afternoon with some food and stuff.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I'll let you know how that goes. If that works out. Well, again, man, thank you so very much. Folks, go check them out. All American Kayak Series. If you're an angler and you want to take your game to the next level beyond just the local scene, check out the All American Kayak Series. You're going to thank me later that you did. And as always, Josh, you let us know what we can do from our side here. I'll talk to you a little bit off air once we get done here, but you let us know what we can do to help promote the series and get the word out about just the cool stuff that goes on, because this is easy promotion here when all I have to do is give people the details. That's that's all we have to do to show just how freaking awesome the stuff is. So thanks, you, brother. We appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you, man.